Good evening and happy Thursday to you folks. This is Omar with the Tilted Lawyer podcast. I am joined by Anita, the Redditor Sleuth.
Hello.
Anita, I don't think we've ever seen an official name for you, but how does that one grab you?
That sounds great.
All right. Also, in this thumbnail, I made an AI-generated avatar of you. I don't know if it resembles what you actually look like or not, but it's going to have to do for now. You, of course, are the founder of what's now become known as Anita's Theory. So it was like a month ago. What had it been a month ago?
23rd, actually. My first PDF was saved on the 23rd. I checked it.
So it's basically already been an entire month since your first PDF. And when you were introducing your PDF to me, you're just throwing all kinds of information. It's like, I don't know, Anita, that's a lot. It sounds plausible, maybe, and then as the weeks have gone by, the weeks and the days, more and more of your theory aligns with real life, which is what I'm discovering. So you're not just like some run-of-the-mill Redditor out there just talking shit. Like you have done your research and you've put together a lot of pieces and put together basically what amounts to a theory that amounts to a conspiracy, that amounts to maliciousness, that amounts to all kinds of things. What exactly? I don't know. I just know that in the midst of planning for this video, we were gonna just talk about your website and do all these things, but this brand new amended complaint comes out with more allegations that aligns to your theory. And I'm not going to go through word for word what all the stuff was. I'm just going to hit some of the highlights as I share my screen with all of you right now. So this is the new lawsuit. This is the new Wayfair complaints against Stephanie Jones. Abel versus Stephanie Jones, really. It's attached to their amended answer. They've answered some things. I've just kind of skimmed through it. I have not sat down and given it my full attention just yet, but I have skimmed through it. These are the counterclaims of Wayfair Studios buying through undersigned counsel as and for its counterclaims against Stephanie Jones and Jones Works. Here's what's going on. It all ties back to this sham lawsuit. Now, on Lauren's stream about 45 minutes ago or 30 minutes ago, I read this for the first time, and then I just basically came to the conclusion that they laundered evidence. They obtained evidence illegally through wiretapping, through invasions of privacy, through violating who knows how many laws, and getting these private communications. They were told that the New York Times were not going to participate in their shenanigans. And then they decided that they needed to have color of law to use the illegally obtained evidence. Then they file a sham lawsuit. They dismiss it the day before the CRD is filed. They attach to it a subpoena and purport that that subpoena gave rise to all of this illegally obtained information. Was it illegally obtained? That's what's alleged. Has it been proven? No. But the allegations, if true, would amount to a number of crimes. Many of you have asked about what I think about Ask Two Lawyers' opinion, where I haven't seen them state this, but other people have commented so much on it. I guess it was categorized, this sham lawsuit, as a brilliant chess move. It's been categorized by other, I guess, high-profile Law and Crime, I think, did a number on it, talking about it was a brilliant move, brilliant strategy on the part of the lively parties, whatever, sham lawsuit or whatever. But before we got there, I remember Ask Two Lawyers on with Judge Scherer. That was the show that I watched. And in the moment, what they were calling it was, it looks pretty bad. I mean, technically, is it legal what they did? Yeah, it's very clever. They said it was very clever, but it looks really, really bad. And I remember just thinking at the time, if it's true that this was a sham lawsuit and they used it to obtain evidence, that formed the foundation of this lawsuit that we're talking about now, that we've been talking about since December, then you might have a path into malicious conspiracy, which may, if you argue it a certain way, defeat certain protections under 47.1. I had started thinking that way. What I never imagined in a million years was that the sham lawsuit was to launder and make legal illegally obtained evidence that they already had. That was unexpected. So I'm not going to go through all of this. I've highlighted some portions of it here, but the relevant portion of it really is when we get to about here. On August 8th, 2024, Jones, in another desperate attempt to reinsert herself in the beginnings of this this complaint, they're going on about how Stephanie Jones is increasingly becoming more and more erratic, more and more unhinged, more and more narcissistic as the days and the months go by. And she started to have ulterior motives, they suspected, and there were things. It culminates with paragraph 40. They state on August 8th, 2024, Jones, in another desperate attempt to reinsert herself, contacted a Daily Mail reporter about a story they had published about Baldoni and Lively. She did so in direct violation of Abel's instruction. And Abel, in these previous paragraphs, didn't want any part of any of this. Leading up to the film's premiere, Lively and Baldoni's team had negotiated an uneasy truce in which neither side would participate in negative coverage of the other. Lively's team had already broken that truce, but the Wayfair team did not know that then. And as far as they were concerned, it was best for Baldoni, Lively, and the film if both sides agreed to keep the peace. The Wayfair's team had to date been acting only in defense in responding to press inquiries. So we get to here. She goes to the Daily Reporter in violation of Abel's instruction not to do that, per Wayfair, not to talk to the press, given the truce with Lively's team. Nonetheless, Jones bragged to Wayfair about trading calls with the Daily Mail in an effort to appear engaged on the account. Nathan and Abel were left to deal with fallout. And Anita, I'm going to ask you, because you are the expert on your own theory, how closely does this align to what you thought was going on as you have it now published on your website, which, by the way, is pinned as a comment in the in the comments. It's a pinned comment, so you can go visit her website and check out all of her work that she's been working on now for months. But how closely does this align with what you thought was going on behind the scenes?
I think this proves it even further, because just think about what this means and what would be the reason for somebody to do this. They know they're lying. They know they're doing this. What are they trying to prevent? So another thing that one of the things that started this whole war, PR war, it was actually Stephanie Jones. Yeah. Because she went against them and she triggered Leslie Sloan, who was the PR. And I think Leslie probably also, we're allowed to swear, right? Where she also she also fucked up.
You're allowed to swear.
So she also fucked up by, instigating in a way that there was more, how to say, bad publicity started going on by, because I think Stephanie's even now they're saying that Stephanie reached out to TMZ and stuff, and Leslie Sloan started putting stuff out about Baldoni, which triggered Baldoni's defense mechanism, which was quashing the bad stories, right? And that's exactly in the timeline. By the way, I've created a very nice but very chaotic visual timeline, which unfortunately I didn't have time to put up because of this new filings that were dropped. I was just listening to Lauren. Not Abel, sorry, I'm just like feeling sad for Abel all of a sudden. And I actually have a tiny shift maybe in my theory, but it still falls. I
Yeah.
think Leslie Sloan and Stephanie Jones, they work together because from their reputations, they are not really, they don't really have clean hands.
Well, they're catty
And
PR folks, and
yeah,
they're full of
yeah.
drama.
And
And
I think
shenanigans.
they took it to Blake, and Blake still read everything and knew there was no PR, but still gave them something.
Yeah.
So Blake was definitely in on the subpoena, obviously because of the Van Zandt.
Yeah.
And from what I understood, Stephanie Jones has been able to track Abel's all messages live since she got the phone.
Till about
Basically,
January,
August.
right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Which means, and also I have uncovered within the lawsuit more evidence of them keeping records of the stuff that Blake had done behind the scenes. And I think Abel's phone was the most valuable because she was the one who was talking to the tag team separately, to Baldoni separately, like she was the center of the whole PR.
Right.
And that's why they got access to all the information that was going on. And also, just a question, why would they take just one screenshot and put it as a smear campaign and not put the full context? So
Oh, that's
they,
the
like
misogyny.
Blake already knew that there was no smear campaign, but she
Yeah.
also knew there was the case. And again, it ties back in, and the lengths that they have gone to prevent all the information coming out. And just to say, I think Friedman has been playing the chess game from the beginning, because I don't think they were even going to ask the New York Times to publish, because Friedman kind of, pushed their hand. And
Yeah.
Stephanie Jones, in her lawsuit, she says that, sorry, this is too long, but I'm just gonna give some information. She says that she had been trying to settle it, and she didn't want to file a lawsuit. But she knew that they also had a case against her. And again, she also filed something beforehand, just on the 24th. Sorry, that was very long, but
No,
I hope you understand.
I'm following you though. I don't know what to make of Friedman. It doesn't track for me that the guy wouldn't know that the subpoena was a sham. I feel like, because you're saying like he's the one playing chess here. Maybe he is. I don't know. But he claimed he had no idea about this sham lawsuit. He had no idea. He's never seen the subpoena. I find that extraordinary.
Yes, actually, I have two theories. This is it's not written in a way. I'm still trying to dig up and make sense of it about this subpoena ever since this came out. One of the theories was that one of them, it could be that they knew what this was, and they wanted to be leaked to the press. Brian Friedman, so that they can start suing it, because apparently Stephanie hasn't given it.
Yeah.
Just to push them, so that, because if we go to discovery, I think it would take long. And
I don't know.
Either that, or another theory that I have is that, how one of my theories is that Blake is trying to get out of this.
Yes.
Right now. This is maybe very far-fetched. I was thinking that what if they can give a reason for Brian to dismiss on a technicality, just to say this is what happened. That was one of my theories, or two. It's like two opposing. It's like either Blake's camp might have leaked it in a way that would give them a hand to dismiss the case on technicality. And my whole thing has been that Blake has been trying to spin the narrative like this. If it's dismissed, she can still go and be like, oh, the justice wasn't served, blah, blah, blah. Or that was one of them. That's way more far-fetched.
Yeah.
But I think maybe Brian Friedman wanted to be released because people are still, waiting for something big to drop. And I think Brian knows. I think he knew. He must have known. There's no way he doesn't know.
Well, he's coming with
he still
something
has to
great,
play. He still has to play the public that he has been. You know what I mean? So that's what I think. I think he has been playing the actual chess game?
I think that we're going to find out. I think this is kind of a preview of what he is thinking. I think that he has consulted with these other attorneys. I think that the narrative, they're going to be unified in this narrative. So what we're reading, I think, is a pretty good preview of what Friedman's going to come up with. They continue. So there's this letter. Blatant disregard of Wayfair's strategy sparks a chain of unfortunate developments. Sloan and Sony learned that someone from Baldoni's team had been communicating negatively to the media. It was clearly Jones, and Wayfair's leadership is livid, as was Sony. All parties are desperate to prevent an all-out slugfest between Lively and Baldoni, just as the film was about to be released to the world. With her reckless and unauthorized activities, Jones had made that scenario much more likely. In response, Wayfair instructed Jones to cease all activities on behalf of Wayfair for the time being, and to let Abel and another LA-based Jones Works employee, Matthew Mitchell, handle the crisis alongside Nathan. At this time, Nathan started hearing from other journalists that Sloan was planting negative stories about Baldoni and was under the impression that Baldoni's camp had broken the truce. Anxious Sony executives began reaching out to Wayfair seeking clarity. Yet Jones, panicked about being blamed, refused to be sidelined, insisting that she needed to contact Sony's and Lively's PR teams to clarify that she had not planted any negative stories about Lively. Heath told her not to do that, to which Jones responded that she could do whatever she wants to clear her name and that Wayfair could not stop her from making calls. Desperate to salvage her reputation with Lively and Sony, Jones emailed a number of key Sony execs working on the film to declare that she was in Europe with her husband, partner at WME, Jason Hodes, and placing all blame on her team. Oh, isn't that nice? What a great boss to work for. In her attempt to save face, Jones ruptured her relationship with Wayfair and Baldoni. Although Jones ultimately agreed to stand down, Wayfair and Baldoni had lost all trust in her after parachuting in for self-interested reasons, nearly blowing up the truce with Lively's team and lashing out when told to stop. And mind you, they're still in production here. They're still trying to put a movie out. So the truce makes a lot of sense. Jones becomes a magnet for drama when it was least needed. But Jones would not give it a rest, ironically, given her later attempt to fabricate a smear campaign narrative. It was Jones, not Wayfair, not Baldoni, not Abel or Nathan, who started advocating for a more aggressive public relations strategy. Her advice was not heeded. And there's this text message from her. I sent you an email with what I think strategy should be, as Justin is not being represented in these stories. We have to fight for every story. I also attached my phone record so you could see I did not call Daily Mail or receive make calls to any media. Tara, I swear with my hand to God, I have never leaked anything to any outlet, and I think you know this. I just want to help Justin and Wayfair.
Just sorry to butt in. It's like me, like when I'm avoiding my mom or something, and I'm like, she says that she called you. I just delete the log that she called. I'm like, see, I haven't received a missed call, or I haven't called you. So like, so stupid. Sorry, it was just me interjecting how easy that was.
Oh, it's like that meme of that little boy that got caught looking at porn, and then his mom walks in. It's like, Mom, I swear, I was trying to delete a virus. I wasn't looking at those things. I didn't know what it was. I want to see what it was. I deleted it because it was a virus. And then when I was getting up, my pants was slipping off. And so I was pulling up, by the way. And I promised I wasn't doing anything crazy. This is what it sounds like. She sounds like
mine was way more PG, but yes, that too.
I don't know. This is it's
exactly.
It's,
see, we gave a male perspective and a female perspective.
There you go.
I think we serve all.
I've been shamed for my meme selection. Fair enough, but it was fresh in mind. I'd seen it recently on Instagram or something. So on or about August 14, 2024, Jones sends an email to Heath, further elaborating on her recommended strategy. Flood the zone with positives. We need to ensure that we promote positive narratives that media outlets cannot ignore. Currently, most stories are heavily biased towards Blake's perspective, leaving Justin unrepresented. It's crucial that we fight for every inch of every story. which requires far more effort than typical crisis PR wants to put forth in our experience working with specialized teams crisis. And that was that. So fast forward to August 21st, 2024. Wayfarer learned that JonesWorks had suddenly terminated Abel, threatening her, seizing her phone, marching her out of the JonesWorks LA office. Wayfarer's CEO immediately reached out to Jones, expressing extreme concern. Jones brushed off his alarm, noted that Wayfarer had an exclusive contract with JonesWorks through May of 25. And this is the email. I guess this is Stephanie to Jamie Heath. Hi, Jamie. Justin Wayfarer, Terror, and team are extremely important to us. I received your text a little over an hour ago. I'm currently unable to make calls on my cell at my current location. I'm so sorry. One of our SVPs, whom you have cited has been one of your day-to-day senior execs on the account, said he just spoke to you. Nothing was urgent. It was about the announcement for the book adaptation. Your below email is inaccurate. As you know, I have been deeply involved in strategy, planning, and account management at high-level PR and media comms as well as crisis until you asked me to stop communicating on behalf of Justin and Wayfarer on August 9th, 24, and allow only Jennifer and Matthew. She sounds like a guilty person creating an alibi, you know?
Oh, yeah. Oh, also Ryan was creating alibi on August 29th by telling Leslie, please stand down. I'm just saying, like I said, in Denmark, we do not want to respond. This is after they got the phone and they had seen everything, and they were creating an alibi that, as if they haven't planted any stories, which is very funny, which will be in my timeline because it fits right in.
This has never been one person, but rather has been a true team effort with my full support alongside a dedicated team at JonesWorks, including a senior VP, 2 senior publicists, several account executives, and account coordinators working tirelessly for Justin and Wayfarer. On August 9th, 2024, you indicated that you wanted only Jennifer Abel and Redacted and team to communicate on behalf of Justin and Wayfarer. It's my understanding that Redacted was retained and began communicating with teams just 4 days later on August 13th, 2024, which demonstrates that I wouldn't have been stepping in mid-trial. I've spoken to people. I also attempted to reach out yesterday about a magazine cover for Justin. We have an exclusive and stuff. All right.
This is actually was sent right before she probably handed in stuff to Leslie, kind of, trying to amend it, giving them one last chance.
Yeah, no, you're right. As September draws nearer, Wayfarer and Baldoni, with the assistance of Abel and Nathan, continue their tireless efforts to promote the film, put out fires, and see the project through to the finish line. Jones, on the other hand, was stewing in jealousy towards Abel and resentment towards Wayfarer, Baldoni for their lack of confidence in her. Although Wayfarer and Baldoni were not there yet, or not yet aware of the magnitude of Jones' betrayal, Jones clearly expected Wayfarer to terminate the JonesWorks agreement, notwithstanding her own despicable and surreptitious conniving. Jones cynically started taking steps transparently intended to make it harder to cut her loose. Those steps included sending email after unwelcome email to Heath and others long after their relationship had ruptured, to lay the groundwork to contest that she had been detached and non-responsive for years. This was especially galling as Jones had been in Europe and largely incommunicado, save for her disastrous efforts at self-preservation. I love that line. I think we've all had disastrous efforts at self-preservations at differing times in our lives. This just happens to be Stephanie Jones' term. For weeks during the critical month of August, when the film premiered, Wayfarer and Baldoni now view Jones as a walking disaster who had demonstrated an astonishing degree of self-absorption, disloyalty, and insubordination during an existential crisis. Have you ever worked with anybody like that, Anita?
So vindictive.
Self-absorbed, disloyal, insubordinate, going through an existential crisis?
A toddler, maybe, but maybe I haven't. come
Oh,
across an adult. Yeah.
I have, and it's it is quite the sight to see.
Oh, actually, maybe this is gonna sound maybe harsh. Right now, there are some lively supporters, which is fine. You can support, but some of them are that way.
Yeah.
Like, just there's no reasoning when you talk to them. But besides that, but it's so much easier to do these things online, face to face. That. By the way, I have a question.
Yeah.
So obviously, Lively is not going to be the scapegoat. Leslie Sloan cannot be the scapegoat because she knows too much stuff, like too much shit about Lively for sure. All the things that she has done over the years. And Stephanie Jones, her husband, is a WME thing. So they don't have a scapegoat they can throw this under, like on. So I think they're gonna settle, maybe.
I'm not sure. I don't.
No, they're gonna try to settle with an
Oh,
apology.
sure. I bet you they're trying to settle now.
Yeah.
Honestly, I wouldn't surprise me to learn that there has been settlement talks advanced by their side already. By the way, Just Ricardo with $2 says, no one last week, but a cascade of content tonight. Hell yeah. It's just how sometimes this lawsuit is gone. Just nothing and then everything all at once. And I guess tomorrow there's going to be more stuff. By the way, tomorrow afternoon, I'm going to be breaking down the latest in the Karen Reed trial, the progress, everything that's going on. I'm going to be comparing and contrasting what has come out the first couple of days of trial versus how it was presented in trial number 1. That's another thing. We're also going to be doing FLAD. In addition to covering whatever comes out, I think we're expecting another amended complaint tomorrow for the Lively case. So I'm going to be basically streaming all day long. It's going to be a long day. By the way, Anita, are you down for some FLAD tomorrow, or do you need a day off?
To be honest, I was planning to sleep and have this chat now, but things have been dropping and I haven't slept yet. It's 6:50 a.m.
Well, you need to. I know.
So it will depend. If I'm not sleepy, yeah, it's been fun, and would love to, but we will see. And I really want to put the timeline out because I have so much stuff to catch up on putting on the website that are before everything we have dug up, so that I can start linking all the things that I have uncovered.
Did I just say correctly that it's 6:50 a.m. and you haven't slept at all yet?
No.
Yikes. Yikes, young lady.
I have a very, I'd say, once my brain is awake, it's impossible for me to sleep. It's impossible. I can be physically exhausted, but if my mind is up and I'm like, those things where you're connecting the dots?
Yes.
That's what's been happening. I have opened my laptop, my monitor, my iPad, all. I am like, when did this come in? Yeah, Brian should hire me.
No, you would be a really good paralegal. Honestly, I would hire you as a paralegal. Hell yeah. I could always do with a really good sleuth style paralegal that's just good at connecting dots. They're invaluable at law firms in case you were looking for employment. At any rate.
Thank you. Thank you. I like this. From far away, I can withdraw. I can get obsessed,
Yeah, no, I got the same infliction about, the late night not being able to sleep because your mind is racing thing. The exact same thing. I can relate. I can. All right, let me continue with this. After Jones suddenly and unceremoniously fires Abel in the middle of this crisis, leaving Wayfair in the lurch, communications between Jones and Wayfair break down completely. Jones vacillated between insisting that they only speak through lawyers and making erratic and deranged threats to sue, demanding exorbitant payment for work not done, and insisting against evidence that she was doing an amazing job. Wayfair and Baldoni considered her behavior a material breach of the agreement and advised Jones that they were terminating the Jones Works agreement as of the end of August. During this period, Jones was stewing in anger and resentment at Wayfair, Baldoni, and above all, Abel, and she devised a plan to take revenge on all of them through the theft and dissemination of Abel's private communications with individuals in the Wayfair circle. This is the meat of what we're talking about tonight. As Abel was being frog marched, I don't believe I've ever heard that term, frog march. Is that a thing? Have you ever heard that expression? I'll take that as a no.
Oh, sorry, I had just muted so that not to a frog march.
She said, as Abel was being frog marched out of the Jones works.
According to Lauren, is that like a frog on fours and jumping? So the visuals are great.
She's frog marched out of the Jones Works LA office. Jones' chief of staff and Jones Works attorney, as Jones' direction, confiscated Abel's iPhone and duped her into disclosing her passcode on the false pretense that Jones Works needed it to facilitate the transfer of Abel's personal phone number off the Jones Works phone plan. But that is not what they did. Instead, without Abel's consent or authorization, Jones and Jones Works accessed, copied, and monitored Abel's private communications, including her text messages and personal emails, bypassing password protections that would otherwise bar access through the use of Abel's passcode. Jones quickly set out to exploit that data she had unlawfully stolen from Abel's phone. Jones disclosed at least some of Abel's private communications to the Lively parties no later than August 21 of 2024. Leslie Sloan, Lively's publicist, confirmed as much to Melissa Nathan, Wayfair's crisis PR representative, on a phone call that evening. Sloan gloated that based on what she had already seen and what Jones had told her, Nathan could expect to be sued. These communications were drawn largely from iCloud, which was accessible through the confiscated iPhone. Fruit of the poisonous tree. Upon information and belief, Jones falsely told Sloan that Wayfair, along with Abel and Nathan, had orchestrated a malicious smear campaign to destroy Lively's reputation as retaliation for Lively's purported complaints about sexual harassment on set. Jones knew that this was false, as not only was she well aware that Lively had not actually been sexually harassed on set, she also knew that there had not been a smear campaign. This is clear because Jones was copied on many of Wayfair's emails and text threads during the relevant period and knew full well that Wayfair was scarcely engaging with the press at all in August 2024, much less carrying out offensive tactics in retaliation for something that never happened. Anita, I got to ask you, because my brain is swimming right now, going back between this and your theory. How does this connect to your theory that you have published on your website, what we just read?
Okay, so basically, I'll try to be brief, but I'm sorry it's impossible sometimes. That summer, I think on like beginning of June or beginning of May or June, I'll have to check, it's on my timeline. That's when Jamie Heath, he has a phone call with Abel, and Stephanie is unable to attend because she had some kind of operation, looping them in what was happening behind the scenes. Up until then, they were not aware of Blake's, tactics and, what she had done. Then on, they start preparing with a PR for any situation, any possible outcome. And they have all the evidence, and they say that they're going to prepare material because they don't know what will be their move. So they have to be prepared in a way that, let's say they put out a statement, they can immediately refute it with facts. Yeah. They're not saying, so this is what it is. And Stephanie was in on this all the time. And as August approached, which was the premiere, that's when shit hit the fan, because I think on the 22nd July, that's when they had like a cast outing, and that's when people started asking, where is Baldoni? Yeah. And on the 22nd, the same day, I think also, or 22nd maybe was werewolf. What was it? Yeah. What was Wolverine, werewolf? Wow. Sorry, I haven't slept. Deadpool and Wolverine, that's when Baldoni was called a sexual predator for the first time. And that's when they asked Abel and Stephanie Jones to see if there's crisis PR. So Stephanie Jones is available. They talked to Nathan, but Stephanie doesn't like Nathan. I'm not going to get into the reason, but basically Nathan was supposed to be hired and then it didn't go well. So Stephanie is just like trying to badmouth Melissa to Abel. But they still hire. And at that point, Stephanie Jones goes away on a holiday. So she's not really aware of what was happening too much. She was probably attached to the emails and whatnot. And I think and during that time, on August 8th, they had done a truce with Melissa and Leslie, so not even Jennifer Abel.
Nita,
so,
how do you just have all this in your head, man? Just like all like in a row. It's
sorry,
like
I'm trying to simplify it, but in the timeline, it's going to make more sense. So,
I'm just marveling at like how much of this you've retained and just you have in rote memory. It's fascinating. It's like, wow, you just know this case. I was giving you props. I wasn't trying to like make.
No. I'm trying to find the reason why. Like I'm trying to explain how I have this, because maybe I have written in my theory, maybe because when you read, you've understood or something. I don't know. It just stuck. And at that time, so Stephanie's out the picture, so she's not aware of the truth. And that's when she says that flood the things, but they have agreed not to say anything. And although Jennifer Abel in an email says, please ignore this, and she writes in an email, oh, we know this person in Daily Mail, she's, we can spin this. And then she says she didn't do it. And Leslie Jones gets the information that somebody from Baldoni camp, who was Stephanie Jones. So this is how it all happened. And this is because this is what they say that, oh, she was unaware, because although she's pretending that she was so involved, but she wasn't. She's the one who ruined this whole truce thing. Sorry, was that clear? Did I confuse you more?
No, you're good. I mean, it's mirroring what I'm reading. And so it didn't confuse me. You've been saying this for a month now. Like, well, I've been aware of what you've been saying for a month. And just to see it all fall into place, kind of like exactly how you said, is fascinating. And I want to address this before I forgot. By the way, April F says, Blake Lively's lawyers were watching Suits, because this is totally something Mike and Harvey would have pulled on someone for sure. This is a episode of Suits. And I do want to address this. Isabel says, I don't think that Ask Two lawyers were thinking it would be this bad. They were trying to be fair. Look, if they said it was a brilliant chess move, I think that this is what they meant. That, look, it's really clever for a lawyer to come up with a way to file a lawsuit to skirt around New York's law, where if you want to do pretrial discovery, you got to get approval from the court. Unless you file a lawsuit in New York, then you could just do it and like immediately. And so they knew that. They file a sham lawsuit, and because they don't name any defendants, they don't have to notice anybody. They get a subpoena, they obtain evidence, and then they get whatever comes from the subpoena, right?
Yes.
So Isabel points, I don't think that Ask Two lawyers knew that this was basically evidence laundering. I wonder how that would change their analysis. And the other thing too, as part of the chess move, filing, and I don't know if this was part of their analysis, but this is where I think that they were really playing chess. Filing the CRD complaint in California, giving themselves the extra protections of 47.1 against defamation claims that they knew were coming, would be a brilliant chess move, unless people could see your dirty laundry and figure out what you're actually up to. Then if somebody finds that out, then you got bigger problems, and you might have just gutted your entire lawsuit, because as Judge Scherer had opined on their very show, she basically said that, look, if evidence comes into my courtroom under these auspices, I'm not letting it in. And she was a very prominent judge who worked on the Parkland case, basically saying, fruit of the poisonous tree, I'm not letting it in. You obtained this through shady practices, inadmissible. That's what the judge said. And then Ask Two lawyers were there. That's what I heard them say. So if they said different things, and I guess it would be coming from this perspective, if there's not really a way to punish them, like if it's a shitty thing to do, but there's nothing that can be done about it, then it would be a brilliant chess move. But to Isabel's point, I don't think that they knew it was going to be this bad. I didn't foresee evidence laundering. I didn't foresee that.
Yeah, I'm not defending or anything. When I was listening, again, I'm not in the state, so it doesn't really affect me in that sense, but I do believe in justice. What they said, that if it was done in a proper way, the subpoena, is because you can do that, because they said apparently that same lawyer had done the same exact thing, but in a proper way. This one wasn't done in a proper way because they filed the lawsuit. They have just a notice number, whatnot, but then they didn't like, there's a procedure. Cassidy's latest video actually explains it really, really well.
I gotta watch Cassidy's video, man. Everybody keeps on telling me about Cassidy's video. I gotta watch it. After the show, I'm gonna watch it.
I don't have the lingo for it, but basically they were supposed to notify the court about the subpoena, although they don't need their stamp, because you're supposed to notify whoever you're supposed to do, but they wrote John Doe and not telling who they're gonna subpoena. So, and that is not abuse of the system anymore. That's what I understood. I'm just interpreting. Okay, this is what I understood. That is not abuse of the system. That is illegal. That is going against the system.
If that's your interpretation of it, that aligns with what I think. That they probably were just like, look, if they could get away with it and not be punished, then it's a brilliant move.
Yeah, and I think that's why, like, the ask to lawyers, what he was saying, that if it was done properly that way, because this is in the previous lawsuit, they had done this and they had gotten the stamp by the judge and they had a shorter time frame, and so that is legally still possible, but the judge approves. In this one, there wasn't. And if the guy from the Daily Mail who said that, he even said that, oh, there was nothing, they didn't show anything else. So it was not legal.
I feel like that analysis is incomplete because we now know. Pug Lady asked,
we now know.
Is evidence laundering a real thing or is that an Omar thing? Well, it's an Omar thing, but I'm going to tell you why it's a thing. It's going to be a real thing. Let me just read some more of this complaint. And I wonder how this would change Ask Two Lawyers analysis, because if this, look, agreed. If there's no ramifications for what they did, then good for them. Brilliant, man. Brilliant. If you can do that and not get in trouble, then, what's the harm? It's a shitty thing to do, but the jury's never going to know any of that.
After today's lawsuit, there will be ramifications. There's no way there isn't, because the judge hasn't replied to that yet.
But now that we're privy to all of these things, this is what we have. Did I already read paragraph 55? I think I did. Upon information and belief, Jones falsely told Sloan that Wayfair, along with Abel and Nathan, had orchestrated a malicious smear campaign to destroy Lively's reputation as retaliation for Lively's purported complaints about sexual harassment. I did read this. On information and belief, shortly thereafter, Jones took a step farther and transmitted Abel's stolen communications directly to Sloan, Lively, and Reynolds. This is where we get to paragraphs 57 to 60, where we get to evidence laundering. At the time, Lively was reeling from a storm of negative publicity, devoid of scruples concerning the unlawful means by which they obtained the communications, and desperate for a scapegoat for Lively's bad press. The Lively parties likely saw an opportunity. While the contents of Abel's communications do not support the existence of an untraceable smear campaign, they do show that by the time of the film's premiere, Abel and others in Wayfair's circle held Lively in deep disdain and, to a certain extent, regarded her self-immolation with a degree of schadenfreude. Anita, how do you pronounce that word? I just
with my bitchin' accent, I don't know how to say it.
I don't know. Maybe you know better than I.
Wait. And I need how.
It is schadenfreude.
I'm not German. Do I sound German?
Kind of. A little bit.
I don't even know. What paragraph are you on?
Oh, I'm on paragraph 57, this word schadenfreude.
All right. Oh.
I don't want to disclose where
Oh,
you're
yeah.
at. You
Actually,
kind of
that's
sound a
right.
little bit German.
Yeah, it's Schadenfreude.
Schadenfreude.
Yeah.
These sentiments were
I
the
think.
natural results of the Wayfarer party's firsthand knowledge of Lively's vicious behavior and malignant persona. This to me is brilliant writing. I like this kind of writing right here. Whoever wrote this, I think, did a really good job. Ezra, whatever, be damned. I'm a fan of whoever wrote this motion or complaint. And turning over these materials to the Lively parties, Jones knew full well how they would be used. With
Sorry to interrupt. Somebody made fun that I said bitchin' accent. I said it because yesterday Omar was saying that with her bitchin' accent, I wasn't calling my accent bitchin' accent. I think yes.
Did I
Sorry,
say
need to
bitchin' accent
clarify.
yesterday? My apologies if I
Yeah,
did.
no. Yeah, I loved it. I laughed. So yeah. So it wasn't me labeling my accent bitchin', but
I do
I
not
loved it.
remember saying that for the record, but if I
No.
did,
It's good. It's good. I
it
like
is something that I would say 100%. So, all right, with slicing, dicing, cherry picking, massaging, and in some cases, outright alteration, the Lively parties exploited Abel's text messages to great effect. Joining forces with the New York Times Lively parties commissioned the hit. Jones continued discussions with the Lively parties over the subsequent months, reiterating the false allegation that Wayfarer has orchestrated a retaliatory smear campaign for different reasons. The Lively parties on the one hand, and Jones Works on the other hand, needed to create a veneer of legitimacy. This is where we get to evidence tampering. For different reasons, the Lively parties on the one hand and Jones Works on the other hand needed to create a veneer of legitimacy. Upon information and belief, the Lively parties anticipated or were told directly that the New York Times would not traffic in stolen communications under these circumstances and needed the color of law. Jones Works, for their part, wanted to insulate themselves from legal exposure to Wayfarer for breaches of confidentiality. Accordingly, on September 27 of 2024, working hand in glove with Jones Works, the Lively parties and their counsel at Manott, Phelps, and Phillips initiated a sham legal proceeding in New York State Court. The sham lawsuit was nothing more than a transparent ploy to obtain subpoena power. The plaintiff, Van Zandt Inc., is an inactive corporate entity affiliated with Lively and Reynolds and entirely unrelated to the film or the Wayfarer parties. The lawsuit asserts 3 causes of action: breach of contract, breach of implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing, and faithless servant against Doe, defendants only. The defendant does not explain how or why Van Zandt was unable to identify the proper defendants, especially in the context of a breach of contract action. Just to give you an idea of how absurd that is, if you're suing for breach of contract, just literal 1L definition, a contract is a promise or a set of promises so made by 2 people or 2 entities, such that one party agrees that their assent or performance of certain conditions will garner certain benefits that were promised to them. This is a lawsuit for a breach of contract. When you contract with somebody, you generally know who they are. When you make promises to people, you generally know to whom they were made. This was a breach of contract case, cause of action, that did not have a named defendant, which means that they're essentially saying that we had a contract with somebody, I don't know who, but we'll figure it out later. That's the absurdity of the complaint that was filed. Now, when you hear language like they needed color of law for the stolen communications that they obtained, then what this sham complaint essentially amounts to is the mechanism by which they took illegal obtained information and laundered it through a sham lawsuit attached to a subpoena so that they can then say after the fact that we have it legally and use it to form the basis of this lawsuit. So if that was their brilliant chess move, they fucked up. And they've been found out, and they got a lot of questions that they need to answer.
I bet they never thought people from Hungary and LA would be sitting on YouTube and reading these details. So
I mean,
jokes on them.
To be fair, when I write my motions, I never think that they're going to become the subject of social media fodder, but you never really know with these cases sometimes, you know?
And by the way, this also, you know, was that in Jennifer Abel's thing that New York Times kind of said that I'm not gonna write about the text messages because it was illegally obtained.
Abel
right?
is included in these allegations, I believe. Let me go back up to the very top.
This is Wayfair against Stephanie, right?
Yeah, Wayfair by and through undersigned counsel as for its claims against Stephanie Jones and Jones Works. I don't have the other Abel thing. I'll get to that tomorrow, but I'd imagine that Abel's going to have a hell of a lot to say. I do actually have Abel's thing. I just don't have time to get to it right now.
Just want to highlight one thing that I was saying, that the subpoena was not supposed to happen because the subpoena was for New York Times and the CRD was the New York Times because they never thought they would have to go through, right? And
Yes.
this goes that, let's say, just
I'm
scenario.
sorry. I got to get the Pug Lady off screen. I'm sorry, Pug Lady. I do that a lot. My apologies.
Just, I'm trying to be logical in a way that they say that, hey, we have these text messages and they've been smearing us. They're sending a few things and they're like, how did you get it? I'm trying to have the conversation, right? And they're like, oh, well, this is how it went. And New York Times is like, well, this is illegal. If you can make it legal, I'm happy to report. And then they make it legal. And the New York Times says, I need to see the whole thing because, you know, they need to protect themselves. And they see that, well, it could be construed either way, but we need more protection, New York Times.
I'm just going to say that, look, evidence laundering is not really a thing. I'm making it a thing. I'm coining the phrase evidence laundering. You know what? I'm going to copyright that shit. I'm not going to do any of those things. I'm just saying.
I'm going to write it in my theory and I'm going to quote you.
Yes, please do. That's basically what this is. Evidence laundering. We got past the Schadenfreude.
Yeah, somebody actually gave an explanation. It means finding joy in somebody else's misery. That's what it means. I think that's what it said.
That's a beautiful word if that's what that means. I have no reason to doubt that definition. But going back to this, where did I leave off? Yeah, September 27th, identify apartment. And the breach and the concept of a breach of contract. That's so ridiculous. Do you understand what that means, Anita? Like, okay, in the context, like you make a contract with somebody, a promise with somebody. You promise that they're going to give you $50 and in return, you're going to give them a copy of your signed PDF by you, personally framed. And then they do give you $50. And then you don't give them what you said you're going to give them. You give them an unsigned version. That would be a breach of contract. And then they sue you. He's like, well, I don't know who the contract was with. Let's just say Doe's 1 through 10 for now. It's ridiculous.
By the way, New York Times says that the messages were retracted or found through a subpoena. That's what they said.
Yeah, I think
in their thing, in their.
That's really interesting with them. They found their information through subpoena. They're claiming that.
So they had a double protection, right? So they knew that it was laundering and they had to do CRD because they commented on the texts that were in the CRD and a couple outside. And that's what Brian has been claiming all this time. And this one will prove it. You know, like I think New York Times will go to discovery. What do you think?
Well, there's a couple of issues there. If they had wind that this was illegally obtained information and they published it anyway, knowing that it was evidence laundering, does that implicate them of something? I'm not sure. They're not lawyers. They have the right to rely on a valid subpoena, which is it's technically a valid subpoena. It is.
But we haven't seen the subpoena, because that's the whole
I
thing.
haven't seen it.
Cassidy was explained that how it was filed, it didn't have a stamp or anything that way. And this secret source on Daily Mail, you know, and it's not even, they say that it's a sources closest to Stephanie, right? So if it was not a sham, let's say, we already found it's Van Zandt, right? The lawsuit.
Right.
Why not show the subpoena? I have a question. Okay, we found the lawsuit. It's all good. Where's the subpoena? What does it say? Why not show it?
The Daily Mail apparently has a copy of the subpoena, and they're not revealing it for reasons. I don't know. And it's starting to piss me off.
Deadline has direct quotes from it, apparently.
I've seen those quotes. I read them on a Lauren show the other day.
Yeah. So, and just the question is, why wouldn't they? You know, they're doing the PR thing. They're trying to look strong. We have everything, and they're going to try to settle because they don't want to leave with defeat. They want to show that, we had something. Like, that's everything they're saying online or their agents, and it makes zero sense.
It's like going on a bad date with a guy, and then like he just like wants to have some kind of shred of like self-respect after you.
Did you see what Jennifer Abel's PR rep? They made a statement.
No, what they say?
They're gaslighting the public. Wait, I'm gonna read it. Okay, maybe you continue. I'll find it because it's very funny.
Okay, I'm gonna continue with this paragraph 62 because we're almost at the end. So again, in the context of breach of contract action, instead, Van Zandt and Manat implausibly claim not to be privy to the identities of its own contractual counterparties or its own employees, contractors, agents, representatives. The lawsuit is devoid of specific allegations against anyone, much less Abel, relying exclusively on generalized recitations of boilerplate legal jargon. Notably, Van Zandt never requested the assignment of a judge, substituted the DOE defendants for named parties, or served the complaints on any defendant. The only docket entries are the complaint and a notice of dismissal filed on December 19th, 2024, the day before Lively filed her CRD complaint against the Wayfair parties. Plaintiff is informed and believes, and based thereon alleges, that upon receiving the sham subpoena on or about October 1 of 2024, Jones and Jones Works turned over the entire contents of Abel's iPhone and cloud-stored communications for a second time, creating a veneer of legitimacy and affording Jones Works plausible deniability once the New York Times came through for Lively. Although the information sought by the sham subpoena implicated Wayfair directly, at no point did Jones Works, or their counsel provide notice of the subpoena to Wayfair or its representatives, which would be the definition of bad faith. Upon information and belief, the entire affair was orchestrated by the Lively parties, Jones and Jones Works, to fly under the radar and enable them to paper over their unlawful conduct through additional unlawful conduct. In December of 24, the Wayfair team finally learned of the magnitude of Jones' betrayal as a result of Jones' deliberate and unlawful disclosure of their private information, which Lively's team exploited to concoct a false and disturbing narrative about them. Wayfair and Baldoni have been irrevocably harmed following the coordinated drop of Lively's fantastical Civil Rights Department complaint and an explosive New York Times article, Wayfair and Baldoni became objects of public scorn and derision. Baldoni has been wrongfully labeled as a sex pest. His accolades have been tarnished. His future projects thrown into doubt. The same is true of Wayfair, which has been falsely cast as an enabler of sexual misconduct and the architect of vicious retaliation campaign against a victim of such misconduct. Indeed, its very viability as a studio has been thrown into doubt as a direct result of Jones' actions on behalf of Jones Works. And I will close with this. If the chess move was to give the illegally obtained evidence color of law, and then to take that evidence and prophylactically file a CRD complaint in California, implicating the protections of 47.1 against what they knew was going to be a defamation suit. Because in those illegally obtained communications, they caught wind that Friedman's been sniffing around since about August, around the same time that they stole Abel's, they confiscated her phone and stole her passwords, essentially. That was the chess move. I think the checkmate might be in arguing that if they were sharp enough to game the system, to think of a way to give color of law to illegally obtained evidence, thereby implicating California law, when perhaps the proper venue would have been in New York. The advantage in California being 47.1 offers added protections to a lawsuit that they knew that was coming. Then what you have, if you get a jury to believe that, is sexual harassment allegations that were brought in bad faith. I believe that would implicate malicious conspiracy in a way that might negate the protections under 47.1 for that specific statute. And if this goes the way that Friedman thinks I don't know if he thinks it's going to go, that perhaps I think Friedman is going to make it go, this may have the effect of gutting the lawsuit of the Lively parties by making inadmissible every piece of evidence that was obtained illegally, that was made legal by color of law, and treating it as fruit of the poisonous tree. Any fruit borne by that evidence is also to be inadmissible. It would gut their entire lawsuit, just about. Meaning they can't really address any evidence that's not brought up by Friedman directly. And it would only be for the purposes of rebuttal, meaning that it's checkmate, game over, game, set, and match. You lose. Good day, sir. That's the checkmate, sir. That is the brilliant check move that is going to be borne about by sloppy litigating. Ask two lawyers, and other lawyers may or may not agree with what I've just said, but I'm stating that I've been tracking this for about a month now, and it's been with Anita's help that I've been turned on to this idea that they use sexual harassment as a cause of action to prophylactically defend against a defamation cause of action. And I'm telling you, it's looking more and more like it's going to be a thing. So who's really playing chess? I don't know. I just think that if that was their big move, I think that Friedman has something in his back pocket that's a little bit more destructive.
The evidence of extortion, I've been saying, he has way more. He has way more.
You have been saying that. You said that earlier on the show. You've been saying that. You said that last week.
Yes, from day one, I was like, he has a lot. Whenever people were like, oh, we're worried, I'm like, guys, don't be worried. Read the messages.
You 100% said that to me. And it's like, I don't know, Friedman might have made some mistakes. You're like, look, chill. You said chill. There's other stuff under the surface. You told me that. I remember. It's on tape. Go watch the videos. You were saying this, and I was like, yeah, maybe. But it turns out, holy shit, man, it's all coming to fruition. It's all coming to a head. I'm sure that people are interested in the legal ramifications for potential criminality of these actions. And I wanted to address some of that. Just off the bats. Laundering of evidence, tampering, sham lawsuit is potentially a federal charge under obstruction of justice, 18 U.S.C. 1512. Using misleading conduct or fraudulent legal filings to deceive courts. That's a federal charge. Conspiracy to defraud the court system is a different federal charge, 18 U.S.C. 371. There's possible New York charges, maybe if they find, because they filed the lawsuit in New York, that it implicates their state charges. New York Penal Law 21540. Deceptively preventing April's control over her evidence, evidence tampering, filing false instruments. That's in violation of New York Penal Law 175.35. If the court documents were knowingly false, and it kind of looks like they were. If you want to charge them in California, it would be conspiracy under Penal Code Section 182, obstructing justice or committing fraud on the courts. I don't know if that's going to stick because it was a New York lawsuit, but they served the subpoena in California, so maybe. Perjury, possibly, because there would have had to have been, if to the extent that there were affidavits that were filed that are false, PC 118. Unauthorized access to Abel's personal data. That's a violation of computer fraud and abuse under 18 U.S.C. 1030, that's a federal crime. Unauthorized hacking of personal data, that's a felony. Fraudulent access of stored communications in violation of 18 U.S.C. 2701. That's by definition unlawful access to personal cloud email accounts. That's a federal criminal charge. If you charge them in California, that's Penal Code 502. You could also add to that in California identity theft, potentially 530.5 if they illegally obtained her passwords and used that to gain access to other information. If you're charging her in New York, that's computer trespass and unlawful duplication. That's violations of New York Penal Law 156.10, 156.30. Those are felonies for the illegal data copying and access. I don't think that they're going to find criminal defamation charges. I think that the charges are basically going to be with respect to the unlawful obtaining of private information under the charges that I've just listed. If there's others, I'm sure they'll ferret it out. But I've had this in my hands for about an hour now, and that's what I could come up with. So there's serious federal, California state, New York state criminal implications to what's being alleged in this complaint. You have to resist the urge to treat this complaint as fact, because what these ultimately are is allegations. You got to keep in mind that they're going to deny all of this shit. They're going to have their own story. They're going to answer to these allegations, and they're going to have their own spin on things. But to the extent that it went down that way, then yeah, there's some criminal implication to all of this.
They're going to gaslight. By the way, they're going to gaslight the public.
That's what lawyers do. It's like half the job is gaslighting folks, you know?
One of my actually documents or whatever I've done is basically how, the lively comment is like, oh, they didn't allege. I've literally compared how they have alleged, and they're it's all about the PR. It's kind of proving that, oh, they haven't alleged, but they have.
Yeah.
They're saying that everything is Lively's lawsuit is all a PR thing until she can get out. That has been my theory from day one.
Yeah.
But she didn't know it was going to go this far. Now they're trying to find a way to get out. They're trying to get dismissed on technicality. Okay, I'm going to say something that maybe, I don't know, help me rephrase it. Oh, sorry, were you done? I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I was done with my theory. I was done on my rants. I was just going off the criminal.
Okay.
People are asking me about what could potentially implicate them criminally.
I want to think out loud with you and with people in the chat. One of the things that's important to understand is also the people behind this lawsuit, right? Baldoni, his belief, his religion is like very near and dear to him.
Yeah.
And he has always stated that they do not want offense, it's defense. It's even in their PR.
Right.
It says like, I don't feel much of a defense. It's in the, in the messages. And then there is the part is just the documents, like, oh, if the documents that get in the wrong hands, what they want to do, that's one of the quotes. These documents, I believe, is the things that they've been filing against her, defamation, extortion.
Yeah.
So this is a document because when Blake Lively is putting it in her statement, she had access to Abel's phone. She would have been able to see what those documents were on the side text. Anyway, and the emails, it's not just the text messages they had access to, also emails. And I think when people are reading, lawyers are reading, they're analyzing just the lawsuit. They're not analyzing the people and their strategy. And I understand when you're saying that, oh, Brian would like to dismiss. I think he wants the truth out the fair way. In a way, I think he might use the subpoena to dismiss the text messages when it comes to Jones with Abel and Jones with Wayfair. I think he will want to keep it to prove malice and how they have done. Yeah. I think that's going to be this. I think they want to weed out the small people like Jed Wallace and Jennifer Abel, like who are just, what is it called when there's a war and there are casualties? What is that called when people get...
When there's people that there's I don't know, the cost of war.
In a war, there are people who are getting, like, collateral damage. Thank you.
Collateral damage. There you go.
Yeah. So they were kind of a collateral damage. Oh, thank you, guys. Got it. So I think that's what they want. And I think the truth is basically Baldoni, Wayfair versus Ryan and Blake.
I think that you're right. There's no evidence to me that Friedman wants to settle this thing. I think he wants to take them to trial and kick their ass. But I think that if he has the ability to gut their lawsuit and go to trial that way, then he's going to do it. So I fully expect him to adopt this theory and to maybe go a couple steps further. Who knows? But no, I'm with you on that. I don't think that.
Yeah. And they will not accept a half-ass thing where they can spin the narrative, a full exoneration. Brian has been saying it from day one.
Yeah, no, man, they're going to be like, look, we want $500 million, a public apology, and you're going to dress up like a little teapot and sing us a song. And you're going to send it on videotape to all of your friends and family, South Park style. How about that? They're not going to do that. But it's going to be something like that. If they're going to settle this thing, it's going to be some ridiculous. They want the trial, man. They want to clear Justin's name in every way possible to send a message. I'm certain everything I've heard about Justin Baldoni, it's not really about the money for him. Like you said, he's not going on offense. He just wants justice. That's all. And to him, I think that justice is clearing himself of these false allegations. Aquanetta with the 5 says, this is a thriller, never knowing when it's coming. Could they face criminal charges for this? I think I just answered your question unknowingly. Yeah, they can face, there is a bunch. Federal charges, California state charges, New York charges. Yes, in short, yes, they can. If these allegations are found to be true, then yes, they can. Eliza Little with the 10 says, is it possible the lawyer who wrote up the sham lawsuit didn't know they already had taken Abel's phone? Thanks for hanging out with us. I mean, it's possible.
Oh, people are giving so much of benefit of the doubt to these people. I'm like, stop it, guys. How many more things do they have to show to prove that this has been planned from day one? Sorry, that's like.
Yeah, I got to say, I work in this industry, and one of the first pieces of evidence I always get, no matter what kind of case it is, whether it be a family law case or a civil case, criminal cases, I get text messages, I get phone evidence. Oh, look what I have. Look at this. This proves my case. This proves the big case, whatever. And so I can't imagine that this lawyer didn't know that they had evidence. They might not have known how they got the evidence, because believe it or not, clients aren't always honest with their lawyers. They might have just figured out that, oh, she was an employee of hers. That's of ours. That's why we have all of this information. That would have made sense to the lawyer. And then, but you're right. I guess the color of law thing, at some point they had to have known that this was illegally obtained. You're right. Maybe.
Let's have a conversation. I'm Blake. You are Manat people.
Okay.
So I'm like, hi, need help. SOS. I fucked up.
What did you do?
I thought this guy who was a hippie, gratitude loving, apparently cafe loving hippie who was praying and hugging people on set apparently. And so I took advantage of it. I was trying to have more creative control. He didn't. So I kind of made up all this bullshit 17 lists that I kind of insinuate sexual harassment.
You would never tell me that.
Or like boundaries, but I don't really say it in written, because if I write it down, then Wayfair would be able to investigate legally and deny it. And I only present it. Yeah, but then I don't. I was smart, because only on the 4th of January, I made the list. I don't even share with them. I just read it out loud, so they don't have no trace of it. So I allege all of this. Now I have power. Now I can be in production. Then, another thing I have to say, this Colleen Hoover, she has massive fan following and great franchise. Cool. So what I did was that, I'm going to push him out. I want to make myself the face of the movie. And I kind of started slowly taking power so that they wouldn't be aware of what was my end game. So I did that. And by the end, I kind of pushed him into the basement. And I think I overplayed my hand. And when things got really, really bad, we got a hold of this one because my reputation was getting bad. And what I found in the phone was that this guy had been documenting everything that I had done to him. And I have done way more than that. And he has defamation case against me. I could see documentation because there are screenshots from August 3 where the Jed Wallace has been saving all the details of what they had been doing, the quotation marks social thing. So this is everything that I've done. And they are preparing for a lawsuit. Help.
Okay. First of all, I'm not going to suborn perjury. So the fact that you told me that your SH claims are bullshit, I can't do anything about your SH claims. We're not bringing an SH lawsuit. If you think that a defamation suit is coming and you're just trying to play defense, then we're going to make good. Look, here's the strategy. Why do you think all of these things? Why does he think this? Why does he think that? You're going to reverse course. You're going to stop doing these things. You're going to behave better. You're going to cooperate. You're going to abide by the contract. And you're going to promote the film as you were contracted to do. What you're not going to do is file a false SH claim. I certainly can't be the attorney now to do that because I'm not going to suborn perjury. Somebody mentioned suits. That's a big theme of suits. They won't, Mike and Harvey wouldn't suborn perjury either. If you tell me, what happened?
What if I tell you there are some instances that I can portray it in a way that can amount to sexual harassment or look like it?
I can't pretend that you didn't just tell me that you were full of shit with your SH claims.
But come on, I'm paying you so much money. Like,
I can't.
How much do you need?
My law license is too much. That's too valuable. No, I can't, man. You're gonna have to find a different lawyer. I can't.
Everybody has a price. My husband is a billionaire.
I'm just gonna pretend that I didn't hear that. Then I'm gonna file a sham lawsuit. And you know what? Fuck it. Let's do it. I will. Well, now I'm exploiting you, I guess.
Which lawyer are we throwing under the bus for filing the sham?
I guess it would be Manat then, wouldn't it? I don't know. But I guarantee you, I promise you That consultation did not go down like that. The way that it went down was they were trying to convince this attorney that they were sexually harassed. They weren't saying that, oh, I know that they didn't sexual harass me. We could just say that because this and that. They didn't. Their consultation did not go down that way. Just didn't. It didn't. But if it did, then that's kind of what I would say. It's like, I can't bring a SH claim with you telling me that. I can't suborn perjury. But then you'd say, oh, everybody's got a price. All right, my price is $1 billion. How about that? I don't know, man. It's just
I will say that, by the way, my previous lawyer that I had hired, to make sure that I could take over the thing, she was very smart, very aware, and she put this thing, retaliation. Can we use that?
Retaliation?
Yeah.
What do you
I've heard
mean?
about this 47.1 CRD or like some kind of employment thing. What do you think about that? Sorry, I didn't mention that before.
Well,
what do you think about that? Would that help?
Let's just assume I know the law. I know all about 47.1. Do you really believe that you were sexually harassed?
I felt like it.
You're going to have to explain to me what you felt.
Sorry, I was just like,
what did he do to be sexually harassing of you?
There was this time once he called me sexy. He was talking about my costume, but I reacted because I already saw that there was resistance towards my ideas, so I started, piling up shit because I knew I wasn't going to get what I wanted. So I made mental notes of things. I think I took notes what dates that happened. Would that help?
Absolutely. I would like to have all of your communications. I would like to have everything. Whatever evidence you have of inappropriate behavior, I'd like to see it.
Okay. There's another time, like, we had this like unmiked scene. I believe that, unfortunately, we're in bad terms. Yeah, it was unmiked, but it was like a romantic scene. If my memory serves me well, he said that, oh, it smells good, but it was like in a different context, but it was unmiked. And yes, I don't have access to the dailies. Are you sure
there was no microphone?
Yes, because we weren't supposed to have voice.
Because I'd really like to have that audio if it existed, because if it went down like you say, then we got him.
Okay. Yes, I think that's good. I can add a few things, by the way, like, people will not believe because I'm not sorry. That's all. But you get the point. This is exactly, I think this is much more professional way, maybe.
Well, yeah, because you would be trying to convince me that you were sexually harassed and be like, okay, based on what? And then you would tell me, and then okay. And I would believe you to a point. I would ask you to point me to evidence that you were sexually harassed. And the lawyers didn't know that, oh, actually it was mic'd and there are recordings and it didn't go down at all, like how Lively said. And so they clearly were were being sold on this SH theory by Lively. And so I don't believe that they knew everything, but I do believe that they did some shitty things for sure. Anyway, that I guess was in response to Eliza Little's question. And again, thank you for the 10. April Love coming in with $2 says, what was the smear campaign? Was the smear campaign to tarnish JB for SH? I guess it would have extended far beyond SH. I think it went to the extent that they were trying to smear him as a sexual predator, meaning he was a sex pest, according to this complaint. And not only has he done this to Lively, but he's been doing this all of his life. I think that was pretty much what the smear campaign was. That, and among a bunch of other stuff, inappropriate behavior, Wayfair unable to control behavior on set, those kinds of things. It was a whole smorgasbord of nefarious issues that was the subject of the smear campaign against the Wayfair parties. Kyle's Birch with the 5 says, thanks, Omar and Anita. Heart, bingo. I'm going to just give that bingo to you. Whatever you were saying, I think they're saying bingo to you. So how about that? Ellen with a 5 says, if subpoena asked for one specific phone, only way BL would know SJ had physical possession of the phone is if SJ told her prior to sham lawsuit. Well, keep in mind, she asked for one phone, but that one phone gave her access to an entire cloud, gave her access to all of these other communications with other folks. where she found the communications like seemingly through legal means because they had color of law. So if you're excluding that evidence under a fruit of the poisonous tree theory in civil courts, the way that that would work is the contents of Abel's phone is inadmissible, and everything that came from the phone, including any and all phone contacts, any and all references to other communications, any and all cloud communications or connections or whatever, anything that that phone was connected to that they used to extract evidence is now excluded. It's a tree that bore fruit, all of this other evidence. Well, the tree is poisonous and all the fruit is poisonous and is now therefore inadmissible. That's fruit of the poisonous tree. It's a criminal concept, and in the criminal concept, as a criminal concept in America, it is a constitutional violation that makes it inadmissible. In civil court, it's not so simple. It's at the judge's discretion, more or less. But that would be the theory behind possibly gutting the Lively party's lawsuit against the Wayfair parties, if that makes sense. So, gosh, we've been going for like an hour and a half, Anita.
Oh, okay. Right.
How are you doing in terms of your energy levels? Because you haven't slept. It's like 7 a.m. where you're at.
7:48.
Gosh.
I think we can skip the website thing today. It's been too long. You have a family, I have a family.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I have a husband who's going to divorce me probably because I've been like staying up California time. With just a question, Jennifer Abel's phone was being monitored apparently in real time until January.
Yeah.
And if memory serves me right, her messages are actually in blue mainly.
Right.
iMessage, and with Brian Friedman with text messages, they're all in blue. Would it be possible that Stephanie also read all her attorney-client stuff? What does that mean?
I don't think that Abel would have had attorney-client communications after August because she was no longer in possession of the phone. That wouldn't make any sense for her to do that.
No, but they had access to her iCloud account.
Then yes, that's possible. That's 100% possible. That's why I say it's not just her phone that's inadmissible. It would be everything that came from the phone. Anything and they got access through her phone to the iCloud accounts. That would mean that anything through the fruit of the poisonous tree theory, anything in the iCloud account would then be inadmissible. But yeah, it's possible.
But isn't that some kind of law she's breaking? Okay, let's forget about inadmissible. Isn't that another charge?
Yeah, all the charges that I read.
And what if her attorneys are reading this too?
I'm not sure to the extent that her attorney. I just don't know the extent that her attorneys are knowledgeable of everything that went on before. Maybe they are. I don't know. I just know that they have brought in criminal attorneys for a reason. I'd imagine that it's in an effort to guard against criminal charges regarding evidence laundering or tampering, unauthorized access, hacking, computer fraud, abuse charges, and federal law, all of the state law charges that are ran down. They know that they're kind of in the weeds with potential criminal accusations here. And I think that you should read in that if they are in fact bringing in criminal attorneys, there's no other reason why they would be doing that other than they know that they're in some deep shit.
I have it in messages, me asking you, remember, how important it is to find out when they joined the case. Do you remember I had texted you to ask or where you can find it? You only said that you can find it when there is like motion to appear or notice of appearance. And now we know Manat was there on October 1st. So they knew extortion was like maybe not, civil. Extortion is civil extortion, but everything that had been going on. Maybe at that point, Baldoni's side didn't know that was criminal, but they knew it was criminal.
Yeah. No.
And that's why I've been saying Gottlieb, like Manat was there as the big firm. Gottlieb probably came a bit later. Stephanie Jones apparently just now has hired some criminal lawyers. And I have some background information as well on the lawyers. Gottlieb is actually, it's enterprise threat. That's his first top thing. And Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds do
You asked
have.
me about that like 2-3 weeks ago or something. Like you were.
Yeah. I've been like,
it's just so weird. Like it's all coming down. I don't know. Sometimes like you get like these weird, crazy DMs from people with these crazy theories, but yours has just been like strangely accurate the entire time. And so, anyway, that's why you're here. That's why I'm promoting your website, because holy shit, you've done a lot of good work on this and cracked a lot of theories that others wouldn't have really thought of. And I have to credit Without a Crystal Ball. She's the one that found the sham lawsuit. Definitely. Laura says that she found it like a couple months before and just didn't know what it was. Like, that's obviously not anything. But yeah. People are asking what's Anita's channel. Do you have a YouTube channel yet, Anita?
I have, and I'm gonna make a video about it, like about the website and break it down. And as I publish, every time I publish some information, I'm planning to make 10-15 minute videos explaining it instead of it being like 1 hour. So yeah, once I have the timeline, I will explain. I'll basically put the deep dive and the timeline next to each other as proof, because right now it's all words and boring unless you really like the case or you're into it.
No, for sure. But hey, we're definitely going to be doing, you and I are definitely going to be doing a stream in the future only about your website, preferably when there's not like breaking news on the case, you know? Like tonight, we're literally gearing up.
This was impossible, not like it would be. Yeah, this was way more important than my stupid website. It's not stupid, but come on.
I've been trying to promote your website in the course of tying it to everything that's coming out of this complaint. It's fascinating. Go read.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
It's all right there, man. By the way, Mrs. Busted Cano of Biscuits with a $3 super sticker. Thank you so much for that, young lady. All right, folks. I think it's my bedtime. I think it's Anita's bedtime.
Yes. Just before we go.
Yeah,
I think Christina, it's her birthday, so happy birthday, Christina. She's been up with us for 6-7 hours. I've seen her in the chats.
Oh my goodness gracious, Christina, happy birthday to you. I'd sing happy birthday, but I have a terrible singing voice, and so I'll refrain. I'll just offer you my birthday wishes. With that, I will bid you all adieu. Have a wonderful night, and I will see you all tomorrow. It's going to be a busy day tomorrow. I look forward to it. I hope to see you all there. Bye-bye.
Night.